Hi Reddit. I, 26 female to non-binary, need some perspective on a situation that recently happened. Here's the story. I got into a relationship with someone I'll call Matt, 26 male to non-binary, who I've known since high school. I'll put Matt's pronouns as they in parentheses since I don't want too much confusion. We dated for a while back then, but I broke up with them because my best friend was depressed and needed my support. My best friend, 26 male, and I got into a relationship at this time and eventually got married last year, but I felt unfulfilled, so we decided to try an open relationship. I'll be honest and say he wasn't entirely on board throughout the whole process, but we tried to work through it, and I offered to break off the relationship between him and I many times throughout the conflict. The relationship lasted a total of 10 years, that aside. In this open relationship, I reconnected with Matt, and things were going well. Eventually, I invited another person, Rachel, 25 female, into the relationship between them and I because they both were interested in each other and me. Rachel and I had gone on a couple dates, and the three of us had hung out playing games a lot. Rachel was also married and trying an open relationship. Initially, everything was great between the three of us. However, things started to change when Matt and Rachel decided to have a bonding ritual without me. This was about a month in, and with their beliefs, was pretty similar to a sort of marriage ritual. I wasn't okay with this as I felt extremely left out, and I asked them not to. They went ahead anyway while I was in another room in Matt's apartment. I found out about the ritual a few days later when I caught a glimpse of a notification from Rachel on Matt's phone. Curiosity and upset emotions got the better of me, so I opened it and started reading their messages. That's when I found multiple texts between Matt and Rachel, where they expressed how much more they loved each other compared to me and wanted time away from me. I know I shouldn't have gone through Matt's phone, but emotion overtook me, and I felt like I could trust them at the time. I was so upset that I left Matt's apartment, where I was staying at the time, and let them know how much it hurt me. This started an argument where Matt tried to leave the relationship because they didn't want drama. I tried to talk to them to explain I wasn't trying to start drama and was just expressing how I felt, but Matt found out that Rachel had blocked them. It turned out Rachel's husband had blocked Matt from her account because he didn't like how Matt had reacted to the situation and didn't trust them. Matt wouldn't speak to me until I got Rachel to unblock and talk to them again, and they wouldn't even consider having a relationship with just the two of us. I gave in and got Rachel to unblock Matt. Eventually, I moved in with Matt because things between me and my husband had worsened and I had decided to break up with him. Matt explained to me that they only said those things to Rachel because I had neglected Rachel and not given her enough attention, that she really loved me way more than them until I grew distant and more attached to Matt. I tried to give Rachel more attention after that, but it never seemed like enough, and always like she'd rather be talking to Matt. We didn't seem to connect that well. As time went on, Matt and Rachel got closer and closer, and I felt increasingly left out. Matt would often erotically roleplay with Rachel over text when I wanted to spend time with them. When I expressed that this upset me, they just brushed it off, saying I should be able to roleplay with my girlfriend whenever I want to without asking permission. It reached a point where I started questioning if I was truly okay with being in a polyamorous relationship. I realized that I didn't love Rachel enough, but I stayed in the relationship to keep both her and Matt happy because I still loved Matt too much to let go entirely, and I didn't want to hurt Rachel because I still cared about her. I started to realize that it was possible I was never really okay with poly or open relationships at all, and that I had only fallen out of love with my husband and developed a crush on two new people. I expressed this to both my partners, apologizing tons to Rachel specifically since she and I weren't connecting as well, but that I'd keep trying because I cared deeply about both of them. My mental health kept declining as I realized I was truly in love with Matt and wanted to marry them. They started being intimate with each other, purposefully excluding me. They specifically asked me not to join, explaining that they needed alone time. I thought this was fair enough since I got plenty of alone time with Matt since they and I lived together, and some alone time with Rachel when Matt was asleep, but it still hurt me. They would often do this while I was awake and still in the apartment, so I had to listen to it. Since I can't drive, I had limited options for going anywhere when I felt upset. As my mental health deteriorated, I began to have suicidal thoughts, started self-harming, and became obsessed with Rachel and Matt's interactions. I kept snooping on what they were saying and didn't like a lot of what I found. There were many more messages between them about how they were made for each other and meant to be. Matt started hiding them from me, which I can understand as I should have respected their privacy, but I just couldn't stop myself. One day, I found a message that said, "Op is just upset because I like you more sexually, and it upset me so badly that I left the apartment while Matt was asleep and went to end my life." Rachel happened to message me as I left, and I broke down and told her what was going on. She begged me to stop, but I kept going. She reached out to my friends and called me many times, and eventually, a friend of mine talked me down. When I got home, Rachel called me and said she no longer wanted to be in a relationship with me because of what I put her through. Despite this, Matt still insisted on having Rachel over, even though I couldn't really leave the apartment. They and Rachel didn't really have anywhere else to go as Rachel's husband didn't want them over at his house, and they didn't have money to spend on a hotel. I tried to be as understanding as I could, but witnessing them together when I couldn't be involved kept hurting me. I would have even paid for the hotel if I had any money myself, but I had gone into a lot of debt getting furniture for Matt and I's apartment since they hardly had any. It was a dumb decision, I know, but I was head over heels and thought I'd live the rest of my life with them. I asked Matt to at least not get any more partners since I felt so neglected and hurt, and expressed that I wasn't happy with them being on dating apps. Matt brushed it off, saying that they were just having fun and flirting on dating apps, nothing serious. Most recently, we had a joint birthday celebration since Matt's birthday is close to mine. The celebration lasted a week with Rachel staying over. During this time, Matt said they wanted each of us to have time alone with each other. I expressed that I didn't want this, that I didn't want alone time with Rachel since we weren't that interested in each other anymore, and I didn't feel it was fair for them to get this when I had nowhere to go for it. I stayed even though they wouldn't back off on it. Rachel expressed to me she wanted that alone time with Matt, so I gave her permission and pretended to be asleep so they could have it. The sounds echoed throughout the apartment and I went to the balcony to cry to myself. Although it was rocky at times, Rachel and I were starting to get along again and fall for each other, and she even asked me to be her girlfriend again. Then, during an intimate interaction between the three of us, Matt was texting on their phone. I later found out that they had found a new potential girlfriend and were planning to see her the next day, while Rachel and I had a scheduled alone day. That was the last straw for me. The next morning, after having an emotional talk about it with Rachel, I worked up the courage with some alcohol, and I decided to break up with Matt as it seemed like they had absolutely no respect for my emotional well-being or boundaries. I moved in with my ex-husband as friends as I had nowhere else to go, which I feel so very bad to put him through. He still cared about me and watched as I fell apart over it. Once I was settled in, Rachel broke things off with me over a text. Matt and I started talking again and expressed interest in seeing each other again. They told me as long as they had me and Rachel, that was all they needed. We spoke deeply of how well we connected, how everything just fit between us and we should have stayed together in high school. That's when I found out that Rachel had set the rule of no talking to exes. Over the last few months I'd kept in contact with Matt, even though I know Rachel isn't okay with it. I feel terrible for helping them break a rule, but I missed them and felt like they were my soulmate, and I'd even have been okay with seeing Rachel again if she'd talk to me. I realized over time it wasn't going to go anywhere. Rachel broke up with her husband and moved in with Matt and has nowhere else to go and still hates me, for reasons I'm not entirely sure on because she won't speak to me. I finally decided a couple weeks ago to cut contact with Matt entirely. I feel terrible and miss them both, and I don't know how to cope with this. I have a new partner who is wonderful and doesn't want me speaking to Matt because my partner thinks they're toxic and abusive, but I'm just not sure. Is my new partner right? Was Matt just a jerk? Was I one to them? Am I unreasonable? I already know I wasn't the best to my ex-husband, so please don't put me down for that. We worked through it, and he's healing. Thank you for any advice. TL Doctor, I was in a poly relationship with Matt and Rachel. Matt and Rachel became closer, started excluding me, and even got a new partner despite my request not to. My mental health declined, leading to a suicide attempt. Rachel ended our relationship due to the emotional strain, and I've now broken up with Matt. I'm struggling with feelings of betrayal and hurt. How can I move forward?